My niece ghosted me after her parents passed away, ignoring every call and letter. Then one day she messaged me, "Hey, I need the family estate transferred to my name." When I refused, she showed up at my door with a lawyer. Nadia disappeared 3 years ago after her parents died in that car accident. I was devastated. We weren't just uncle and niece, we were genuinely close. I'd helped raise her since she was 8 when my brother went through his divorce. She'd spend every summer at my place. Christmas mornings, birthdays. I taught her to drive, helped with homework, gave her dating advice. She was like the daughter I never had. After the funeral, I tried calling every week, sent birthday cards, Christmas gifts. Everything came back undelivered or went straight to voicemail. Her friends said she'd moved across the country, changed her number. It was like she'd erased our entire family from her life. Then 3 years later, that ice-cold text, not, "Hey, Uncle Mike," or "Sorry for disappearing," just a demand. "I need the family estate transferred to my name." When I said we needed to talk first, she showed up the next day, looking like a completely different person. Designer clothes, perfect makeup, expensive handbag. This was the girl who used to borrow my old Nirvana t-shirts and eat cereal for dinner. She wasn't alone. Some slick lawyer in a $1,000 suit stood beside her, briefcase in hand, looking at me like I was wasting his billable hours. "This is just a formality, Mr. Frederick," he said, not bothering with pleasantries. The house and remaining assets should have transferred to Nadia when she turned 21. There were some administrative delays, but we're here to correct that now. Nadia finally looked at me, but there was nothing there. No warmth, no recognition of our history together. Just cold entitlement. "We don't need to drag this out," she said. "Just sign the papers and we'll be gone." I nodded slowly like I was considering it. "Actually, there's something you both need to see first." I walked over to my desk and pulled out my laptop. See, the funny thing is, I've been expecting this visit for 3 years. I opened a video file and turned the screen toward them. It was grainy security footage. Timestamp showing 3 years ago, the night after the funeral. The video showed Nadia sneaking into her parents' house around 2 a.m. She wasn't alone. Some guy I'd never seen before was helping her load garbage bags into his truck. But these weren't clothes or personal items. The next clip showed them clearly. Nadia stuffing her mother's jewelry box into a bag. Her father's watch collection. Cash from the safe I didn't even know existed. Even the silver candlesticks from the dining room. "You robbed your own parents' house," I said quietly, watching their faces. The night after we buried them, Nadia's perfect composure cracked. Her face went sheet white. The lawyer looked confused, clearly not expecting this turn. "I installed those cameras after the break-in at the Henderson place," I continued. "Your dad asked me to help set up his security system 6 months before the accident. Funny thing about cloud storage, everything gets backed up automatically." The lawyer was already reaching for his briefcase. This wasn't the kind of case he wanted his name attached to. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, pulling out another document. "This is a police report I wrote 3 years ago but never filed. I've been waiting for you to show up." Nadia found her voice. "You can't prove anything. That could be anyone." I clicked to the next video. This one showed her face clearly as she walked past the camera, arms full of her mother's vintage designer purses. "The police report includes a full inventory of everything that went missing," I said. "Jewelry worth $30,000, the coin collection, cash, electronics." I documented everything after I realized someone had been in the house. The lawyer was fully packing up now. "Nadia, we need to leave now." "Wait," she said desperately. "Uncle Mike? Mom left me something before she died." She pulled out an envelope with my name on it in my sister-in-law's handwriting. Inside was a letter dated 1 day before the crash. "She knew you were stealing from Dad's business." She documented everything. The letter's last line made my vision blur. "If you're reading this, it means Mike got to us first." I felt like someone had just punched me in the stomach. My hands started shaking as I held that letter, reading it over and over. The handwriting was definitely hers. I'd seen it 1,000 times on birthday cards and grocery lists. My face must have gone completely white because the lawyer actually took a step toward me like he thought I might pass out. "What are you talking about?" I managed to get out, but my voice sounded weird and strangled. I read the letter out loud, mainly because I needed to hear it to believe it. My sister-in-law had discovered I'd been embezzling from my brother's construction business for 2 years, roughly $400,000 total. She'd found discrepancies in the accounts and had been quietly gathering evidence with some forensic accountant. The letter said she and my brother were planning to confront me the day after she wrote this, the same day they died in that car accident. I looked up at Nadia, and she was watching me with this cold, calculating expression I'd never seen before. "You want to call the cops on me for taking Mom's jewelry?" she said quietly. "Go ahead, but I think they're going to be a lot more interested in what you've been doing." The lawyer had stopped packing. He was looking at me now with this completely different energy, like a shark that just smelled blood in the water. "This is insane," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Your mother was mistaken. I handled some consulting work for the business, but I wasn't stealing anything." "Really?" Nadia reached into that expensive bag and pulled out a thick folder. "Because I've been working with a private investigator for the past 3 years, Uncle Mike. I wasn't running away. I was building a case." She opened the folder on my coffee table. Bank statements, copies of checks, email printouts. Mom found a safety deposit box key hidden in her jewelry box, the one you said I stole. I found the letter and all of this 6 months after the funeral. My mouth went dry. I remembered that safety deposit box. I didn't know my brother's wife even knew about it. I did take things from the house that night. Nadia continued, and honestly, she sounded almost tired now. But only things Mom told me to secure if anything happened to her. All the documents and evidence she'd been collecting about your theft. The lawyer leaned forward, suddenly very interested. "May I see that letter and the supporting documents?" Nadia handed them over like she'd been waiting for this moment. The lawyer started flipping through pages, his eyes getting wider. "These bank statements show regular transfers to shell companies," he said, more to himself than to us. "And these signatures, Mr. Frederick, are these yours?" I couldn't answer, because, yeah, they were my signatures. On invoices for consulting work that never happened. Payments to companies I'd created that existed only on paper. My brother's construction company would pay these fake businesses for services, and that money would eventually make its way to my personal accounts. "The police investigated the accident," I said, grasping at anything. "It was ruled accidental. You can't accuse me of this." Nadia's expression didn't change. Mom's letter specifically mentions brake problems on their car. Dad kept saying he'd fix them, but never got around to it. "You had access to their garage, Uncle Mike. You used to work as a mechanic before the construction business started. You knew exactly how to make it look like an accident." That hit me like ice water. The lawyer was already pulling out his phone. Wait, I said, panic rising in my chest. "This is crazy. I'm calling my attorney." "You should," the lawyer said calmly, "but I'm calling the police right now. This is evidence of a serious crime." I lunged forward and tried to grab the folder off the table. I don't even know what I was thinking, just pure instinct. Nadia had anticipated it, though, because she stepped back, holding her phone up. "Everything's already backed up," she said. "Cloud storage, remember? My investigator has copies. My attorney has copies. Multiple locations. You taught me that, actually." I realized then how completely trapped I was. This girl I'd helped raise had spent 3 years planning this moment. She'd been 3 steps ahead of me the entire time. The lawyer was talking to someone on the phone, giving my address. I could hear him saying something about embezzlement and potential manslaughter. My legs felt weak and I sat down hard on the couch. I only borrowed the money. I heard myself saying, and I barely recognized my own voice. My business was failing. I had debts. I was going to pay it all back. The accident was just an accident. I swear to God I had nothing to do with that. Nadia sat down across from me, and for just a second I saw a flash of the little girl who used to sit in that same spot watching cartoons. "You know what the worst part is?" she said. "I actually believed you were innocent for the first year. I was grieving and trying to make sense of Mom's letter. I wanted to believe there was some mistake." "There was," I said desperately. "Nadia, I loved your father. He was my brother. Then I hired the investigator," she continued like I hadn't spoken. "And he found something Mom hadn't discovered yet. 4 months before the accident, you took out a life insurance policy on Dad, with yourself as the beneficiary. $500,000. My stomach dropped. I'd forgotten about that policy. The lawyer's head snapped up from his phone call. "You took out life insurance on your brother?" "It was a business partnership protection," I said quickly. "Standard stuff, in case something happened." "You weren't business partners," Nadia said flatly. "You were just an employee who handled some consulting contracts. Dad owned the company outright. There was no reason for that policy to exist unless you knew something was going to happen to him." We sat there in silence. I could hear sirens in the distance, getting closer. The lawyer ended his call and stood near the door, I guess to make sure I didn't try to leave. "I didn't kill them," I said, looking directly at Nadia. "I swear on everything. I didn't touch that car." She just stared at me with those cold eyes. "We'll let the police figure that out." 2 officers arrived maybe 15 minutes later. Young guys, professional, taking everything seriously. Nadia handed them copies of all the evidence, including the security footage of herself taking the documents. She explained everything calmly, methodically. Her mother's letter, the financial records, the insurance policy. They asked me questions and I stuck to my story. The embezzlement was a loan. I was desperate, but I never hurt anyone. The insurance policy was innocent. One of the officers bagged my laptop and phone right there, said they were evidence. They informed me I wasn't under arrest yet but shouldn't leave town. Standard procedure, they said. After they left with all the evidence, the house felt too quiet. Mike sat there in defeated silence, and honestly, he looked like he'd aged 10 years in the past hour. I had to ask him one more time. "Did you kill them?" I said, and my voice cracked on the words. He looked up at me, and I swear, there was something in his eyes that looked genuinely horrified. "No," he said. "Nadia, I'm a thief, okay? I'm a desperate, pathetic thief who stole from his own brother, but I'm not a murderer. I didn't touch their car. The accident, it was just terrible timing." I didn't believe him. I picked up my bag and walked toward the door where my lawyer was waiting. "Nadia," Mike called out. "Please." I didn't turn around. Over the next week, everything moved fast. The detectives assigned to the case were thorough. They interviewed everyone from Dad's construction business, all the employees, the accountant, suppliers. People confirmed that my dad had been asking questions about certain payments in the weeks before he died. The office manager remembered him looking stressed, saying something about numbers not adding up. The detectives discovered Mike had created 3 fake vendor accounts and had been systematically siphoning money for 2 years. They found contracts for work that was never performed, invoices for materials that were never delivered. It was actually kind of impressive how elaborate the whole scheme was, in a terrible way. Then they reopened the car accident investigation. I got a call from Detective Moreno asking me to come down to the station. They'd pulled the original accident report from 3 years ago and had the car examined again. It had been sitting in an impound lot all this time, something about insurance disputes. "The brake lines show signs of possible tampering," Detective Moreno told me in his office. He was this older guy with kind eyes, but you could tell he'd seen everything. "Problem is, after 3 years and exposure to the elements, our forensic experts can't be 100% certain. Brake lines can corrode naturally, especially in our climate." "But it's possible someone cut them?" I asked. "It's possible," he said carefully. "The pattern is consistent with tampering, but we can't prove it beyond reasonable doubt based on physical evidence alone." I felt this wave of frustration. So he might just get away with it? "The embezzlement charges are solid," Detective Moreno said. "Your uncle is looking at serious prison time for that. The potential murder charges, that's going to be harder to prove." Mike hired some expensive criminal defense attorney who apparently cost him whatever savings he had left. I heard through the grapevine that the lawyer told him basically the same thing. The embezzlement was a done deal, but the murder charges were circumstantial. I met with the district attorney, this sharp woman named Patricia Volkov. She was honest with me, which I appreciated. "The embezzlement case is strong," she said. "We have documentary evidence, witness testimony, forensic accounting. That's solid. But proving he caused the accident, that's much harder. Even with the timing, the insurance policy, and clear motive, the physical evidence is inconclusive. So he just gets away with killing my parents?" I could hear my voice getting louder. "We're pursuing the financial crimes aggressively," she said, "and we're building the best case we can for the manslaughter charges. But I need you to understand the challenges we're facing." Then something broke in the case. The forensic team examining Mike's laptop found deleted search history. He'd searched online for brake line tampering techniques 2 weeks before the accident. Multiple searches about making vehicle accidents look natural. Stuff like how to disable brakes without detection and brake fluid line cut detection. The forensic specialists were able to recover all of it. Detective Moreno called me personally. "We got him," he said, and I could hear the satisfaction in his voice. Mike's defense attorney tried to claim the searches were for a mystery novel Mike was supposedly writing. But investigators couldn't find any evidence of writing. No documents, no notes, no outlines. Nothing. No one Mike knew could remember him ever mentioning writing a novel. The DA moved forward with charges: embezzlement and 2 counts of vehicular manslaughter. The trial started 3 months later. I'd been dreading it and anticipating it at the same time. The courthouse was this old building downtown with marble floors and high ceilings that made everything echo. I sat in the gallery every single day, watching. The prosecution laid everything out systematically. Mike's mounting debts, the embezzlement, my parents discovering it, the suspicious online searches, the insurance policy, the convenient timing of the accident. They built a timeline that made it seem obvious what had happened. When it was my turn to testify, I felt weirdly calm. I talked about my mother's letter, the evidence I'd found, the 3 years I'd spent investigating. The prosecutor asked me about my relationship with Mike before all this, and I told the truth, that he'd been like a second father to me. That losing him after losing my parents felt like losing my entire family. Then Mike took the stand in his own defense. I wasn't prepared for how broken he looked. He admitted to the embezzlement right away, said he was ashamed and desperate, but he insisted he never touched the car. "I was planning to confess," he said, his voice shaking. "I couldn't live with the guilt anymore. I had actually scheduled a meeting with my brother for the day after the accident. I was going to tell him everything and beg him to let me pay it back." He broke down crying right there on the stand. "I loved my brother," he said. "I know I betrayed him. I know I stole from him, but I would never have hurt him. Never." It was almost convincing. Almost. But then the prosecution produced phone records showing Mike never scheduled any meeting. No calls, no texts, no emails setting anything up. They also brought in a neighbor of Mike's, Mrs. Chen, this tiny elderly woman who testified that she saw Mike leaving his house at 2 a.m. 2 nights before the accident carrying a toolbox, which she thought was unusual since he rarely worked that late. Mike's defense team tried to discredit her testimony, said it was too dark, she was too far away, couldn't have seen clearly. They argued Mike often worked odd hours when he couldn't sleep, that he had insomnia. The prosecution brought in a forensic mechanic, this guy who'd been working on cars for 30 years. He testified that while the brake damage was consistent with both tampering and wear and tear, the specific pattern of the line failure was highly unusual. Both front brake lines failing simultaneously like that almost never happens naturally. "In 30 years, I've seen it maybe twice," he said, and both times it was tampering. On cross-examination, the defense got him to admit it wasn't impossible for both lines to fail naturally, just highly unlikely. The prosecution brought back the forensic accountant who'd helped my mother. She was this precise, no-nonsense woman who presented everything in spreadsheets and charts. She showed exactly how Mike had been stealing, the fake companies, the forged signatures, everything. And she testified that my father had requested a full audit of all vendor accounts just 3 days before the fatal accident. "So, Mr. Frederick knew his theft was about to be discovered?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes," she said. "There's no way the audit wouldn't have uncovered the fraud. The defense tried to paint me as someone with a financial motive to see Mike convicted since I stood to inherit everything. They brought up me breaking into my parents' house and removing items, suggested I had my own criminal intentions." The prosecutor countered by showing the letter, where my mother specifically instructed me where to find the evidence. "The deceased anticipated that if anything happened to her, her daughter would need this documentation," she said. Nadia was following her mother's explicit instructions. Then came a surprise witness I hadn't known about. Some guy named Tony Reeves who used to work with Mike years ago when he was a mechanic. He was this big dude with tattoos and a gravelly voice, and he testified that Mike once bragged about knowing exactly how to disable a car in a way that would look like an accident. "We were having beers after work," Tony said. Mike was going on about how mechanics know stuff regular people don't. He said something like, if you really wanted to get rid of someone, you could make their brakes fail and nobody would ever know it wasn't just bad luck. I watched Mike's face go completely pale. He was whispering urgently to his attorney, clearly panicked. Mike's lawyer jumped up, called it hearsay, argued the conversation allegedly happened over a decade ago. The judge allowed the testimony but instructed the jury to consider the time frame and the context. During closing arguments, the prosecution basically connected all the dots. Michael Frederick had motive. He was about to be caught stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from his own brother. He had means. He was a trained mechanic who knew exactly how to tamper with a vehicle. And he had opportunity. He had access to the victim's garage and their vehicle. The online searches prove he researched this method. The insurance policy proves he planned to profit from their deaths. And the timing proves he acted just before being exposed. The defense argued that circumstantial evidence wasn't enough for murder charges, that Mike was a thief but not a killer, that the prosecution was asking the jury to make huge leaps in logic. The jury deliberated for 3 days. I barely slept during that time. I'd check my phone constantly, waiting for the call. When the verdict came in, I was sitting in a coffee shop trying to eat a sandwich. My lawyer called me and just said, "Get to the courthouse. They're coming back." I don't think I've ever moved faster. The courtroom was packed. I sat in my usual spot and watched the jury file in. None of them looked at Mike, and I remembered someone telling me that's usually a bad sign for the defendant. The foreman stood up, this middle-aged guy in a polo shirt who'd been taking notes throughout the trial. The judge asked if they'd reached a verdict. "We have, Your Honor. On the charge of embezzlement in the first degree, how do you find?" "Guilty." Mike's head dropped. "On the second charge of embezzlement in the first degree, how do you find?" "Guilty." Then came the big ones. "On the charge of vehicular manslaughter in the first degree regarding John Frederick, how do you find?" There was this pause that felt like forever. "Guilty." I felt something break open in my chest. "On the charge of vehicular manslaughter in the first degree regarding Diane Frederick, how do you find?" "Guilty." Mike's lawyer had his hand on his shoulder, probably to keep him from collapsing. I just sat there crying, not even trying to hide it. After 3 years, after all of this, Someone had finally said it out loud. He did it. He killed them. The sentencing hearing was 2 weeks later. The judge allowed victim impact statements. I'd prepared something, spent days writing and rewriting it. I stood up in front of everyone and talked about my parents, who they were, what they meant to me. I talked about losing them and then discovering the man who helped raise me was responsible. I described the 3 years I spent building a case instead of grieving properly, sacrificing my own healing to pursue justice. My uncle didn't just kill my parents, I said, looking directly at Mike. He killed my entire family. He destroyed every good memory I had of my childhood. Every birthday, every holiday, every moment of support and love. It's all tainted now. I'll never know if any of it was real. I asked for the maximum sentence. Mike's lawyer made some argument about remorse and cooperation, but honestly, I don't remember it. I was too focused on Mike, who was staring at the table in front of him. The judge didn't take long. 25 years for the combined charges. Mike would be 70 years old before he was eligible for parole. As they led him away in handcuffs, Mike looked at me one final time. His lips moved, and I think he said, "I'm sorry, but I'm not sure." I turned away without acknowledging him. After the trial, I had to deal with the practical stuff, recovering the stolen money, dealing with what was left of my parents' estate. The court ordered seizure of Mike's assets, his house, his car, everything. But most of the embezzled money was gone, spent on gambling debts and maintaining Mike's lifestyle. They recovered about $80,000 total. I filed a civil lawsuit for the remainder plus damages. Won a judgment, but Mike had no assets left. The lawyer explained I could garnish his prison wages, maybe get like $20 a month. If he ever got released, I could go after future earnings, but realistically, I'd never see most of that money. The insurance company that held the policy on my dad refused to pay out, citing fraud. They actually sued Mike's estate for the premiums they'd paid. I supported their case with all my evidence, because honestly, screw them getting any money. Finally, with Mike in prison and the legal battles mostly over, I gained full control of my parents' estate. The house had been sitting empty for 3 years. The grass was overgrown. There was water damage in the basement. The whole place felt dead. I spent a weekend going through everything. It was brutal. Every room had memories. Every closet had surprises. I found more photo albums, my mother's journals going back years. She'd written about her suspicions of Mike's behavior starting about a year before she died. Little things that didn't quite add up, conversations that felt off. While sorting through my father's office, I found more business records that the initial investigation had missed. Turns out Mike's embezzlement actually started 5 years ago, not 2 years like everyone thought. The total amount stolen was closer to $650,000. I brought it to the prosecutor, but she said additional charges would be difficult. He's already serving the maximum sentence for what he was convicted of. We could charge him with more counts, but it wouldn't change his prison time. I decided to sell the house. Too many memories, and most of them were poisoned now. I used a realtor who specialized in estate sales, this sympathetic woman who'd handled similar situations. The house sold for less than expected due to the market and its condition, but it was enough to pay off my debts from the 3-year investigation and start fresh. 6 months after the trial, I got a letter forwarded from the prison, Mike's handwriting on the envelope. I almost threw it away without opening it, but something made me read it. It was a full confession to the brake tampering. He described exactly how he did it, where he cut the lines, how he made sure it would fail at high speed. He wrote about watching from his car down the street that morning, waiting to make sure they left for their appointment. He knew the route they'd take, knew there was a steep downhill section where failing brakes would be catastrophic. "I'm dying," he wrote. "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors say I have maybe 3 months. I need you to know the truth before I go." I did it. I killed them, and I've lived with that knowledge every single day since. He tried to explain his reasoning. The panic of being discovered, the gambling debts that were threatening his life, the desperation. None of it justified anything, but at least it was honest. "I never meant for things to go so far," he wrote. "But every choice I made led to the next worst choice. I'm sorry doesn't begin to cover it. I know you'll never forgive me. I'm not asking you to. I just needed you to hear it from me. The whole truth." I brought the confession to the district attorney. They confirmed with the prison that Mike had been recently diagnosed. His confession included details about the brake tampering that weren't public knowledge, things only someone who actually did it would know. The specific location of the cuts, the tool he used, even the weather that night. The DA asked if I wanted to pursue additional charges or if the confession was enough for the record. I thought about it for a long time. Mike was already dying, already in prison. What would more charges accomplish? "Just file it as part of the permanent record," I said. "I don't need anything else from him." I never responded to his letter. He wanted closure. wanted me to acknowledge his confession, maybe even forgive him. But I had no interest in giving him peace. He'd taken everything from me. The least he could do was die with that guilt. 2 months later, the prison called. Mike had died. As his only living relative, they needed to know about arrangements for his body. "I'm not claiming it," I said. "Let the state handle it." They buried him in the prison cemetery, a simple grave with just a number. I didn't attend. I didn't even ask where it was. Mike's confession became part of a legal database used by prosecutors in similar cases, I guess as an example of premeditated vehicular homicide. Journalists started reaching out, wanting to cover the story. True crime podcasts, magazine articles, even a producer talking about a TV special. I declined everything. I had no interest in reliving this experience publicly, in becoming some true crime celebrity. I just wanted to move forward with my life. I used part of the money from the house sale to establish a scholarship fund in my parents' names. It wasn't huge, but it would help a few students studying accounting or criminal justice every year. My way of honoring my mother's investigative work that ultimately brought Mike to justice. The construction company my father had built ended up being sold during the investigation. There were too many debts, too much bad publicity. I got a small settlement from the sale after everything was paid off. Combined with the recovered assets and what was left from the house, I had enough to restart my life. It was far less than my parents had intended to leave me, but it was something. A year after Mike died, I got a Facebook message from someone I didn't know. A woman named Jordan Frederick. She said she was Mike's daughter from a relationship before he married. She'd been trying to find her father for years and had only recently tracked him down, just to discover he'd been arrested, tried, and died in prison. "I need to know what happened," she wrote. "I need to understand who my father was." We met at a coffee shop downtown. Jordan was about my age, maybe a year or two older, with Mike's eyes. It was unsettling seeing the resemblance. I showed her everything. The evidence, the trial transcripts, the confession. I didn't sugarcoat any of it. She deserved to know the truth about the man she'd been searching for. Jordan was devastated. She'd grown up without a father, had spent years wondering about him, building up this image in her head of what their reunion would be like. And instead she got this. But something weird happened as we talked. We connected over our shared loss and betrayal. She'd lost the father she'd been searching for. I'd lost the uncle who helped raise me. We were both casualties of Mike's choices. Over the next few weeks, we kept meeting up. Jordan told me Mike had been sending her occasional money over the years, small amounts he claimed were from part-time work. When we looked at the dates and amounts, I realized this money came from the embezzlement. Maybe $20,000 or $30,000 total over the years. Jordan was horrified. "I unknowingly benefited from the theft that got your parents killed," she said, her voice breaking. "You didn't know," I told her, but she insisted on paying me back every cent. We worked out a payment plan. She'd send me $500 a month until it was settled. Through Jordan, I learned more about Mike's past. His gambling problems went back decades, apparently. He'd been in and out of debt his entire adult life. Jordan's mother had left him because of it, when Jordan was just a baby. He had this pattern, Jordan explained. He'd get into financial trouble, make desperate choices to get out of it. Then those choices would create bigger problems. It was like a spiral he couldn't escape. She also told me Mike had been in massive debt to a loan shark for years, some guy named Paulie who ran an illegal sports betting operation. Mike owed him close to $200,000, and Paulie had apparently threatened Mike's life multiple times if he didn't pay. I provided this information to law enforcement. Detective Moreno seemed genuinely interested. They investigated, and it opened up this whole thing. They discovered Paulie was running a larger criminal operation involving gambling, money laundering, even some drug distribution. Several arrests were made. It didn't change what Mike did. He still made the choice to kill my parents. But at least it provided some context for how desperate he was, how backed into a corner he felt. Not that it excused anything. The final payment from Jordan came in last week. She sent it with a note. "I know this doesn't fix anything, but I hope it helps a little. You deserved better from all of this." We both did.